Hey, welcome back to another episode of Tech Tips on Tech Tuesday on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but first, let's hear from our podcast sponsors. And we also want to give a shout out to our partners, We Coach. Go to wecoachsports.org, and the Global Community of Women in High School Sports. Go to globalcommunityofwomeninsports.org to find out about these two great organizations that we are very proud to be partners with. Now let's hear from our sponsors. We want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. They will show you how to sell your tickets digitally, how to scan the attendees that come to your games, how to collect your revenue. That's certainly important. And every step of the way, you're going to have a dedicated client success manager that's providing hands-on support. Once again, go to hometownticketing.com. They can show you how to sell tickets for things like school dances and plays, theater performances, even music and arts, as well as graduation. Go to hometownticketing.com and start selling tickets digitally. That's hometownticketing.com. We also want to say thanks to FinalForms, the industry leader in registration. But FinalForms is more than that. FinalForms can help your stakeholders with things like mobile accessibility. They have reminders for parents about policies and physicals and all the forms that go with athletics. For your coaches, FinalForms can help with attendance and communication, and even help your coaches with their certification management. And for athletic directors, FinalForms can help with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. You know, it's time that you talk to a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps and find out what FinalForms can do for you, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to get started with FinalForms. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and see how athletic directors are creating world-class marketing content for their school's social media channels. You can do it in seconds on any device, and you don't need any design experience. As I like to say, it's so easy, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com and start creating custom branded content for your school's social media channel. That's Gipper.com. We also want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. They sponsor the Athletic Director Toolbox segment of our regular podcast. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve every aspect of your athletic department. We use surveys for everything at my schools, and the information that came back was almost always overwhelmingly positive. But the survey also allowed that squeaky wheel parent to vent a little bit, and sometimes they'd share a minor issue that you could address and keep it from turning into a major issue because you didn't know about it because you hadn't done a survey. Go to athleticsurveys.com or send them an email at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. Let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. As a head football coach, I used Huddle for years, and as an athletic director, we were a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the online tools, the smart cameras, of course, the analytics, but there was so much more. Huddle is also built for every level of play, from club and youth programs all the way through high school and college teams. If you want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and your program and how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. We also want to say thanks to Snap Raise. Go to snapraise.com and see how better fundraising can make your program better. Get away from the headaches of the past. There's no selling or managing lists or inventory. Our coaches use Snap Raise, and it was just fantastic. I knew about it, but I didn't have to be involved. And what's more important, it works. Choosing the best fundraiser for you and your group is critical, and you can put the Snap Raise digital fundraising difference to work for your school. Like I said, it's easy and effective, it's safe and secure, and it works. Go to snapraise.com and see the thousands and thousands of dollars that they've helped schools just like yours raise using Snap Raise. Okay? Once again, change your fundraising game plan and start a fundraiser that works for you. Go to snapraise.com to get started. We also want to say thanks to Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. They're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. If you're looking for a very cool way to display your school's Hall of Fame or to create a record board for all your sports, for all the events, you need to talk to the folks at Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. Let them help you recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present, and showcase your school's diverse history along with your proudest moments. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com or email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com to get started. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive. Their indoor scoring tables and video boards not only create revenue for your department, but they also create the ultimate game day experience for your athletes. Our school is one of the first in Florida to have a Sideline Interactive indoor scoring table, and it was just fantastic. We use it for games, we use it for pep rallies, we also use it for signing ceremonies. It's tremendously versatile, and their customer service is second to none. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or send them an email at sales@sidelineinteractive.com to see exactly what their fantastic products can do for you. Again, go to sidelineinteractive.com, schedule a live web demo, and see their tables and boards in action. That's sidelineinteractive.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast and another segment of what we call Tech Tuesday. Each week, we talk about some of the technical sides of being an athletic director. And our guest today is one of our podcast sponsors, Clay Burnett. He's the founder and CEO of FinalForms. You've heard me talk about FinalForms on all of our episodes, but Clay's with us to kind of take a deep dive into a couple of aspects of what FinalForms can do for athletic directors. So, Clay, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks a lot, Jake. Always fun to be on, and it's always cool to be traveling, across the country. Last week or so, I was out in Oregon at a few AD workshops, and they're like, "Hey, we heard you on Jake's podcast." So it's cool to see you growing in popularity as well.
Oh, I'm jealous. Oregon's my home state. I wish I would have been there with you.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. So really today kind of want to take an angle on FinalForms and athletic departments that might not be front of mind currently, as obviously demands change throughout the years or throughout the year for ADs. Obviously right now it's registration and the seasons are starting and you got to get everybody in. But what I want to talk today about is, there's more to an athletic department when it comes to data governance. How are you governing information in your athletic department? And communication, compliance information, and data in the right hands at the right time. So what we're seeing is athletic directors using technology to change the game, whether it is, with video game analysis, seeing things at a different level than they've ever been able to see a football or a basketball or a volleyball game, or a data distribution system like FinalForms. So I want to tell you today that FinalForms is a whole lot more than just forms, and it ultimately helps you elevate your registration, communication, and data governance within an athletic department. So, as I'm going to jump into a screen share here, if you don't mind.
No, absolutely.
Before I get going, Jake, I know you've AD for years. Tell me a little bit more about how you managed information in your athletic department.
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. There's just so many things that you need to have your fingers on. It's September, so it's the start of the school year. And so, registering athletes, registering new students, making sure they're part of your database, collecting the physicals, collecting in Florida. We have, the EL2 and the EL3 forms. phone numbers, emails of parents, everything. You really have to have a program to keep that stuff safe and secure, and also accessible, so you can get to it at hopefully a moment's notice.
Yeah, perfect. Well, right. So let's talk a little bit today about what Trent Kroll from Hood River out in Oregon, a QPA school, calls a total game changer. He recently adopted FinalForms, as a quote we pulled in from him. So we can change the game by addressing data governance. And as an AD, look, you might know all the terms of basketball, football, and all that. And I'm a track and cross country guy. You tell me data governance, and I'm like, what does that mean, right? But as we look at the holistic picture of schools and athletic departments across the country, data governance is going to be at the forefront of everybody's mind 3 to 5 years from now. And we feel that we're quite far ahead of the curve. Data governance started in the healthcare industry when they saw that fast, accurate, well-protected data changed outcomes in hospitals. So if you think about that, fast, accurate, and well-protected data in the right hands at the right time, can that change outcomes? If we're talking about emergency medical, if we're talking about eligibility rosters, if we're talking about timestamped communication with parents, students, or staff, all of that can change the outcome of a medical situation, a legal discovery process, or just simply time savings. So I want to dig into a little bit more about how data governance really can help an athletic department. So you may have a collection piece in place right now, whether it's paper or an online system to collect data. But if you're not verifying and properly distributing that data, you're not really governing data to the extent you could. And ultimately, if there is compliance, safety, controversy, risk, liability issues, being able to round up the answers you need very quickly is a big deal. So ultimately, FinalForms help schools not just collect information, but verify and distribute that to the right hands at the right time, whether it be related to state, district, or department compliance, whether it be that real-time emergency medical information because mom took the kiddo to the doctor today and a diagnosis was made and updated in FinalForms, and the coach knows how to better handle a situation that happens tonight. And ultimately, the big time taker, the big time suck in all of our lives revolve around that bottom line: controversy, risk, and liability. And look, we are athletes, we are coaches, we are leaders. We want to be out there on the field. We don't want to be in an office, digging through papers or looking through past emails to prove this was said then, or we had this information, we didn't have this information. So how you govern data can change how you spend your time. And FinalForms gives you some easy buttons. So I kind of want to show you a little bit more about that. So when you're thinking about collect, verify, and distributing information, forms are a two-way street. You can collect information such as permissions, consents, waivers, enrollment information, emergency medical contacts, conditions, things like that. And that can be collected 24/7, 365 as things change. Verifying that when a form update was changed, because if mom did not indicate the kid had asthma until yesterday, and that was after an incident occurred, look, we want to help that kid out, but mom didn't give us the information. So we need real-time information, and updates can happen anytime. And those real-time updates need to get to the coach's fingertips for practice, get to the coach's fingertips on the bus. So when a kid eats a peanut that shouldn't be eating a peanut, he knows exactly what to do. Verifying other things like, when things happened, the demographic, data of a sport and things like that. And ultimately, the other direction is distribution. So, out in Oregon, we were just talking about emergency action plans. Think about emergency action plans. Think about a coach's job description. How many coaches are out there doing what they do and have never been provided a job description for the head, the program coordinator, the assistant, the volunteer that they are? So if something comes to call and you're sitting in a district office saying, "Hey, coach, have you seen this?" "No, sir, I've not." And then ultimately the athletic director is thinking, "Oh my gosh, I didn't send out that information," or coach never signed off on that job description. So it could be a job description. It could be a handbook. "Coach, have you been informed about how to handle a bullying and harassment issue?" No, sir, I have not. Well, don't you have the handbook? It was given to me maybe 10 years ago. I haven't seen it since. Well, FinalForms can prove that coaches signed off on that every year and acknowledge that he or she, or they understand what's in that handbook. So FinalForms can be used to distribute information, whether it be what we just spoke about there, social media policies. So when TikTok 2 rolls around, you can change your social media policy and get that out there. So everybody signs off saying they won't do silly things with social media. And mental health alerts, now more than ever, you need to know if there is an issue with a student that's maybe not overt, maybe you can't see it. But if there's a note from a nurse, an athletic trainer, or parent on file about the kid, as a coach, you can better handle a situation. So as long as that data is distributed, you're doing a good job with data governance. Here's a bunch of questions that just bounce around your office every day. I'm not going to go through every single one, but I can tell you that FinalForms literally has an easy button to answer any one of these things, and it can filter through lists. This is a little bit unrelated, but when it comes to compliance and communication, we had an AD, James Neal from Tacoma, emailed us a couple of weeks ago as sports were rolling around in Washington. And he said, hey guys, I would love a list of all the students who were participating in sports last fall who have not yet signed up this fall. And we said, okay, we can do that for you. So we built a filter that is now available to all FinalForms users and all FinalForms athletic directors, and they can filter and note whether it's the building or the district level, who was playing a sport or who was involved in a seasonal sport or who was involved in sports at all last year that's not out yet this year. James identified 440 kids that were signed up for a fall sport last fall in 2021 that were not yet signed up in 2022. He contacted them and he had over 100 signups in that following week, and he's still rounding them up. So those are 100 kids that are now in a place where they have belonging, they have leadership, they have mentorship, they have peer support, and that's where we want our kids. That is more important now than ever. So whether it's compliance or communication, we've got really cool, easy buttons. When it comes to staff, when you're hiring that staff, or like I said, job description, handbooks, policies, what do you have that can be turned on into an online form? A campus map of AED locations. And then do you have my information? If something were to happen to me, do you know how to call my spouse and say, Coach Clay had an incident, we're transporting him to this hospital, meet us there, everything's going to be okay, or worse, not okay. We are very glad we can get in touch with you right away. So again, easy buttons when you need them, because we collect, verify, and distribute data in a way that provides you the best tool you need when it comes to data governance. So risk, controversy, and liabilities, these are the questions that are fairly threatening when you're looking at them, because any one of these questions can take you in any direction. Who was aware the kid had allergies? Did we address that correctly? Did we even know that he should have an EpiPen? Did we know that she needed an inhaler? All that information is within FinalForms and again, distributed. So the burden is not on one person. The burden is not on the AD or the assistant to make the little green cards or, the transportation department to get stuff on the bus. Everybody has appropriate access to information when they need it on their appropriate devices. So, the risk, controversy, liability, Jake, I'm sure you had experiences, and I'm sure you erase the names and faces, but what percentage of time did this kind of stuff take as from your life as an AD?
Well, again, I'm old enough to remember doing all that stuff by hand in manila folders and individual papers, but technology certainly allowed us to remove much of that time suck, as you mentioned, from the day. But still, it's part of that ongoing thing of updating the information and making sure that it is current. I was a full-time athletic director, and so I had the time to do that and take it off the coach's plate, so that they could they could enjoy, the fun aspects of coaching. But it was my job as the AD to make sure that that information was up to date, and that it was accessible to the coach when they needed it.
Perfect. Yeah, so what's accessible? In FinalForms, there can be little notes saying the father is not authorized to transport the child, because if I put that child in the father's car or allow that to happen after practice, that's a liability to me as a coach, to the school district. And that's tough stuff to track on paper or in a system that's just a collection form system. We need to govern that data and make sure it gets out, to provide that timestamp history, because legal discovery processes are time consuming. We're all setting forth on this year of 2022, 2023 with high expectations. Hopefully, lesser rates of COVID and more kids can participate than ever before. And the last thing we want is to end up back in the district office when we really want to be out there seeing full seasons of participation and our teams at full strength out there, doing their best. So ultimately, what data governance can do is increase your stakeholder buy-in and support. You are building relationships. As Phil Risen at the NIAAA says, we're in the people business. We need to build relationships with the parents, the student athletes, our staff, including coaches, our athletic trainers or nurses, and throughout the administrative world. So if we are governing data, putting data in the right hands, communicating proactively rather than reactively or punitively, these relationships are good. You get the buy-in, you get the support, and maybe that results in cool things like the Booster Club, believes in your program more and you're going to get some new stuff, or just things like that. So relationships, are the foundation of everything that we do. And again, we are all athletes, we are all coaches, and data is not always on the front of our mind. But if you have a system to make it that way, you can still focus on what you need to do, and you're governing data with a good system. So ultimately, when you're talking about FinalForms, you want to think about the team, technology, and service. Anytime you're looking at any given technology, whether it be scheduling or football game analysis, or whatever technology you might be considering, you want to look at the team. Who's going to be providing it? What does the company look like? FinalForms, as everybody knows now, is made up of former administrators, coaches, who understand. Everybody who's customer facing on our team has been in your shoes in some way, shape, or form. Our technology is second to none. I'm going to show you a couple little things to conclude on the next slide that'll just kind of blow your mind. And the service, 24/7, 365 support, real-time updates, free training, free form updates. And the latest and greatest things, some of those things we're doing is ADA compliance and Google Translate. So school districts have different demographics. And of course, we look at some of those districts we put on a pedestal and we say, wow, everybody's, driving Range Rovers and Mercedes and everything's perfect in that world. But it's not always, because we have even those districts telling us, we didn't even realize that we were not serving a group or a demographic. And now that we have Google Translate and ADA compliance on our forms, we've seen participation go up in our sports, clubs, and activities, which FinalForms creates registration for. So no matter your demographic, ADA compliance and translatable forms matter, and you can get more kids to where they need to be, which is in that group of belonging, whether it be, sport club or whatever it might be. Obviously our goal is to elevate education with the service that we provide. So we want everybody in the school district, coaches, ADs, and so on, to do what they do best, to take what they've learned in those LTI courses, to take what they've learned in those NFHS training courses as a coach and apply it. We don't want you to have to worry about missing information, missing signatures, not knowing whether the kid can do this, that, or the other. We want to elevate education, and we want to take that data governance piece off your hands and make it all automatic and allow you to do what you do best. So when I was talking about that technology, a couple of really cool things that I think we spoke about maybe last time, but equity data, demographics, Title IX reports. Everybody's required to put forth a Title IX report. It's one click away in Final Forms. Participation and outreach tools, just like I said, James at Tacoma was able to engage 100+ athletes in 1 week and get them out for sports and provide for them that place that is a wonderful place for them to be. So the outreach tools, the data and demographics, and of course the backbone, the physicals, forms, and eligibility are really what Final Forms is bringing. And I apologize, 10 years ago, I named the business Final Forms, so everybody thinks it's just forms, but it's so much more. So really, if you're interested in checking it out more, I would encourage you to go to finalforms.com. We actually have finalforms.com/Jake. So you can go there and get Jake a referral and maybe save a few bucks. So please go to finalforms.com/Jake if you'd like to strike up a conversation with myself or one of our sales team members. And finally, note what I just said there, myself. I live in Cleveland, Ohio, but I travel so much to Oregon, Arizona, Washington, New York. Some people, some ADs are like, wait, you coach cross country, which high school? You coach track, which high school? And I tell them where I coach and they're like, wait a second, I thought you were down the street. So one unique thing about Final Forms is that we are a company with a CEO, a CTO, leaders that travel this country. We are not governed by a board. We are not beholden to reporting to any other system besides ourselves. So when James makes that call and says, I'd like this report, we do our best to put that tool in his hand right away. We don't have to go to a board and say, hey, we're going to build a system called AMP. That's a free system for athletic director associations, because they probably say, Clay, you're crazy. That's not going to make you any money, but it builds relationships for us. And that's what we're about. And, I'm willing to pick up the phone. You'll probably see me in one of your states over the next school year. And I'm excited to shake hands and build a relationship.
Yeah, again, I know we're on a podcast right now, and this will be up on YouTube in a couple of weeks, but your graphics, I think a lot of people just think of Final Forms as the forms, the physicals, the forms, the eligibility, but it's that data that you talked about that you can put to work for you and your school, the participation and outreach tools. What a great feature. And then also the data and the demographics, just really, really cool stuff that a lot of other systems don't have those features. So again, ADs, really encourage you to reach out to Final Forms. Again, if you want to get a little discount, go to finalforms/Jake, and Clay and his team will definitely take care of you.
Thanks a lot, Jake. It's always a pleasure.
Well, we appreciate you supporting the podcast, and we always love to hear from you and how ADs can use Final Forms. For our listeners, remember the Zoom recordings of all of our videos get uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening today. Come back next Tuesday for another Tech Tuesday tip, and just about every day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. We certainly want to thank Final Forms for their support of the podcast and Tech Tuesday, along with our other sponsors. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Go to athleticsurveys.com and start mining the data, the positive data that's already there, and put it to work for you and your school. We also want to thank Hometown Ticketing. Go to hometownticketing.com and let their customer support team help you start selling your tickets digitally for all the events at your school. I want to say thanks to SnapRaise. Go to snapraise.com. Check out their fundraising platform. Our coaches use SnapRaise, and it was just fantastic. And they've helped schools just like yours raise thousands and thousands of dollars. Go to snapraise.com for more information. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, and as an athletic director, we were a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com and see how they can help your program using video and analytics. We also want to say thanks to Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. If you're looking for a unique way to display your school's Hall of Fame or your school's sport record boards for all the sports, for all the events, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Also want to give a shout out to Gipper. Go to gipper.com and start creating world-class content for your school's social media channels. It's so easy, even I can do it. That's gipper.com. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards create revenue for your department and also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com for more information. And we want to say thanks to our two new partners. We Coach, go to wecoachsports.org and find out about all the resources available to you and your coaches. That's wecoachsports.org. And we want to say thanks to our partner, the Global Community of Women in High School Sports. Jen Brooks' great group. Go to globalcommunityofwomeninsports.org and become an ally of the global community of women. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.